So another skirmish season has come and gone, and we got the week 3 roll-ups, but we never did get kind of like the overall final season roll-up. But hey, my friends, from a Blitz standpoint, that's what I'm here for. So today, let's look at week 3. We'll look at kind of the final overall picture, talk maybe implications of that for a bit until, of course, the next set drops. Yar! And then we'll look at what maybe is on the horizon from an LL standpoint, just given the numbers and where everyone's at, headed into Skirmish Season 12 this summer.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends. Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for tuning in here on your Flesh and Blood Tuesday for a bit of a delayed roll-up of the Blitz Skirmish Season. Now, the reason this is delayed is typically what we've seen in the past is they'll give us the week roll-up, and then maybe 24 to 48 hours later, they'll give us a full roll-up kind of recapping the season after some of those last points trickle in. We never did get that. I'm pretty sure that's because everyone right now is so focused on the Pro Tour this weekend. So I actually do have a request. I know today is not going to be very highly viewed, so if you're watching it today and you appreciate me going back, doing the numbers, and actually looking at Blitz and caring about Blitz and looking forward, please take the time to give me that like. That would really help with the engagement and getting other people to get eyes on this video. So thank you in advance for that. And I'll do my DM Armada thing, number to another number, make it go higher. But I know y'all are subbed anyway. So thank you for that. All right. So with what I have currently, so this will go live Tuesday morning. I'm shooting this Monday night. So I'm using the numbers that I have available to me right now. What you see across the side of the screen right now are the recap numbers for Skirmish Season 11. So we expected going in as per my kind of guess numbers. Again, remember I pull the data. Well, I count. I don't pull any data. I go through and I count through Gem, and I estimated there would be 1,512 points available. We ended up getting 1492. Sailed the ocean blue. Huh? Anyone? All right. Anyway, so we are slightly below that. We are, you can do your math, and that's 20 points below. So 5 events off on the estimate. Either they didn't fire or whatever it may be. Okay, so we went from 1512 to 1492. Now, as per the weeks overall, kind of the picture is exactly kind of what we expected to see. Week 1, we only got 428, so a little underrepresented. Week 2, we saw go higher. And then we also saw week 3 go higher because, again, we expected some of those latent reports, whatever it was with, reporting heroes or whatever. Someone had commented in the last video, it's like, well, I actually didn't put my hero in. It got put in later. So it got counted later. Makes a lot of sense. So either way, we were relatively close to what we expected, but did not make the 1,500 points this season, right? 1,492. So 2 events shy of making a full 1,500, but we're going to be plus or minus based on the way the rounding works. So no big deal there overall. And again, those are the points I'm working off as of right now that I'm shooting this, which is, roughly 10 hours before you're viewing this. So let's go ahead and throw up the Blitz wins as accumulated between the end of week 2 and week 3, that short weekend. Verdance swings into first position by 3. So 26 for Verdance, 23 for Aurora. Pretty big delta there on the top 2. And then we have a relatively flat field after that. We do have Kayo at 10, and then it's a 7 for Datadol, 6 for Dromai, Terra making a tear upwards. See, I'm so witty. Vincent, Florian at 5, and then we have 4 for ASC, Blaze, and Quickie P. We have 2 for Syndra, Dash DB, Levia, Prism, Advent of Thrones. That's not OG Prism, who only ended up getting 1. Riptide pulling down 2, and then 1 each for Dorinthea, Phi, which is very interesting, New, Acilio, and Prism. So thank you again for LSS for putting these wheel things together. Obviously the summary, and then I like the wheel thing. And actually, I really wanted to put one of those wheel things together for you all, but if anybody knows what website they use to do that, let me know. I know it's not an in-house thing because I saw Grand Archive also posted one that was in the wheel format, so it's clearly a website that exists and I just couldn't find it. So if you know what it is, let me know, and I will try to do that in the future when we don't get data like this, just to make things pretty, right? Because people like graphics. So let me know if you know. If not, that's cool too, because I sure as heck don't know. So let's go ahead over to the spreadsheet right now. Now, actually, before I throw up the spreadsheet, again, we know the LL situation. Nobody LL'd. We didn't expect that. We're all on the same page on that. Now, basically what we're looking for here really is just the season percentage for all of the heroes, which would have, in the aforementioned wheel donut diagram, whatever they call it, right? I think it's a donut. That's what we would have seen. But looking at the actual percentages, okay, Aurora pulled down 19%, Verdance at 16.4, and then we go all the way down to Kayo in third position at 8.6. And then we have 6.4, 6.2 for Blaze and Dromai, and then, basically 5% under that. So if you really look at this season kind of compared to the others we've seen in the past, if we take a quick step back, Skirmish Season 9, as we all remember, was very, very, very dominated by Zen in the top-heavy slot. And Briar was kind of like right below that. It was a pretty defined like top 2, 3, 4, maybe top 5 meta for that season. And then when we moved to Skirmish Season 10, which was widely considered to be a very balanced and great Skirmish season, you see a very much wider distribution on that. Okay, so that's something we've all seen before. Now, I've done the same graph and put everything in the same position comparing Skirmish 11. So just to put the numbers on it, in Skirmish Season 9, the top 5 heroes earned 66% of the points. In Skirmish Season 10, the top 6 heroes earned 56.5. So aside from just the graph looking flatter overall, you see that there is mathematically a much larger distribution. Now we go to Skirmish Season 11, and we have the top 5 heroes earning 56.6% of the points. What's interesting about that, though, is the pure spike difference as compared to Skirmish Season 10 with how Aurora and Verdance really dominated the meta. So it's one of these situations where looking just at the raw numbers doesn't tell the true story. In reality, my assessment is that Skirmish Season 11 was closer to a Skirmish Season 9, which was generally considered to be a not great meta, than it was to Skirmish Season 10, which was considered to be a very, very, very open and great meta. However, again, that statement is the way I said it, I think doesn't tell the truth, because again, you look at the tail. Once you get past Aurora and Verdance and their dominance within the season, it's really pretty wide open, because again, your top 5 is matched to Skirmish Season 10, but your top 2, Zen, who was exceedingly dominant in 9 and really just dominated and tore up that season, LL'd within that season. You then look at Aurora, who's only, a 1 point some odd % behind him in terms of win rate. So it really does go to show how depressed and what you could say elevated or depressed, depending on your point of view from a LL point standpoint, available between 9 and 10. Because remember, they didn't make the fixed points adjustment until 10. But you can make your own conclusion. I mean, you will anyway, right? Make your own conclusions out of this, which, that's good that you can look at data and make your own conclusion. But it's very interesting to me how you could really tell, if you wanted to, depending on your point of view, you could really look at the data from this season and really tell either story. I personally skew to, when I look at the graph, when I look at how much more elevated 1 and 2 were versus the rest of the field, it tends to tell me that it was a pretty dominated meta. That's what I take away from it. But again, if you look at the top 5 and stuff like that, so again, you have to carve it up and you can tell the story that you want to play, probably depending on who you showed up playing. But this is a very interesting data scenario. And, I know a lot of you folks out there enjoy the numbers. So let me know in the comments what you think. Was this a top-heavy meta? Or was it a wider meta? Or was it, as I'm saying right here, was this actually a mixed meta? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it from the overall standpoint of the, I should say, kind of the season at the whole. But what I wanted to do real quick was really look at some of the surprises for me over the season. If we go back actually to LSS's chart, Zen goose egged week 3. Zen goose egged week 3. That's insane to me. He's still Zen. And, I kind of talked a bit about it in the last recap, which was, 2 weeks ago at this point. So let me remind you, my thesis statement of why no one was playing Zen is basically that I think that the vast majority of people who played Zen because he was the best deck. And I think that's why the vast majority of, and I'm talking in like Skirmish Season 9, right? And maybe a bit in 10. But in 9, it was the people who wanted to come out and just run the best deck. And they all hopped over to Aurora, who was the best deck. That's what I think happened, and that's why I think Zen did not represent. Because I do not believe that overall this season, with Zen pulling down only 2.1% of the victories, I do not believe in my heart and my soul, in everything that makes sense to how I know what Fab works, that Zen was only winning 2%. So the only thing that makes sense to me is what I said, where the number of people who got comfortable, and if, and the other people hate him. Right? So they're like, well, I'm never going to play Zen ever. Right? And they don't want to go back and buy levels of alignment and all that stuff. Right? So that's where I think, and again, this is where the dislikes come in. I get it. But let me know if you agree below. Like, do we think that what happened here with Zen was just the fact that the vast majority of people who were doing that were meta chasers and they're on Aurora? That's what I think. Or maybe they flipped a Verdance, whatever. That's what I think. Because Zen is not a 2.1% hero. Like, Zen is better in the meta. I think Vincett's good, but like Zen's better in the meta than Vincett. Zen is way better in the meta than Syndra is. And just didn't see it. So anyway, rant over on the Zen thing. But that's the only thing that my little pea brain can wrap its head around is, brain wrap head around. Anyway, you get it. It's the only thing I can conceptualize as to what happened. Is just that vast majority of people who would have played Zen jumped ship. I think that's the thing. So again, let me know if you agree, if you disagree. Now, what's interesting to me about this, so Verdance does not surprise me. I think Aurora was just easier overall. And again, I think the reason that Aurora ended up at the top was, again, because of just she was the best deck on paper and she got brought out more. And she's easier, but I still, there is no part of me that doesn't think Verdance is the best deck in the format right now. And the fact that she has been raising as more awareness has been raised on that, I think backs that up. But it was good to see her make a resurgence on week 3. Kayo can just puke damage, does a thing. Blaze, I'm still a little surprised she's not lower, but within the context of Verdance being ever increasing, it makes sense to me. I've been very impressed. So remember Dromai going into this, I called Dromai as a sleeper. Levia wasn't really fair to call a sleeper because she was good before, but Levia did well. And then Datadol just, Datadol's really, really, really good, but that's a lot of rounds to cut through and not brick. And I think that's Datadol's problem. And, I use problem with air quotes because we've used that as justification for why Runeblades can be overly powerful in the past. And I think Datadol really just has a quote-unquote Runeblade problem, where sometimes she just bricks. So I think we're okay with that. Florian, I think, is amazing, really well-positioned. And when we go to Terra, talking CYB, we very clearly saw that CYB, the concerns many of us had, myself very much included, around CYB, were unfounded for this particular Skirmish season. They may not be in the future, but for this one, they certainly will. And after that, you get your onesie twosies as we kind of expected. And then the data, again, what I have on the overlay goes all the way down to all of the heroes who earned points. Phi with 1, Nu with 1, Dorinthea with 1. Kind of fun. I shouldn't say 1, sorry, but 0.3%. So anyway, super cool there. Now let's go ahead now and go over to the current points. Now, the way that this is sorted, of course, is by the points that they won this season. But if you go and you look at where my estimates were about right, my estimates were actually a little low for both Aurora and Verdance. But Aurora at 399, Verdance at 294, Kayo at 653. If we transpose this season to what folks earned, I don't know, like sorry, let me jump ahead to the conclusion so I can walk us there. 1,500 point with the lack of there is like no Blitz, and not no, but there's like very few Blitz events across the globe from like the World Tour at this point. 1,500 I don't think is the right number anymore for Skirmish season. I think the only reason that they want to keep it there is that so they don't have some explosive hero like Zen just speed run. But do the input-output math. 1,500 is not enough, right? Under the assumption that we're not going to have Blitz events, which I think is going to hold true, and I mean outside of Skirmish, the 4,500 points that we're going to put in per year is no, especially because we're now at 1,000, right? 4,500 per year when we were at 500 is a different story. Now we're at 1,000. It's just not enough, right? I mean, I'm not saying that Aurora at a roughly just shy of 20% win rate should LL in one season. Not what I'm arguing for at all, right? But for her to basically have another 3 to 4 seasons left on the table at that same performance level, I mean, look at the points she earned this season at a 20% win rate, being the best deck in the meta. I mean, you understand what I'm saying, right? You'd have 2 to 3, maybe 4 seasons at that win rate before you go away. I mean, that's just how math works, right? With no other ancillary points coming in, is my point. So I do think that the team as a whole may want to sit down and evaluate, collective points per year or something like it. To be clear, I love the way that they do the flat points available. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm just questioning whether 1,500 is that right point. Maybe you're saying, okay, we need there to be 10,000 points a year. And fairly, it'd probably be like, 9,000 points a year, right? Roughly 9 heroes a year, 9,000 points a year. If you're not going to inject points otherwise for Blitz, then it should be about 3,000 points a season. Maybe a little less, 2,500 points a season, right? Because you want to keep players around, right? Not have spikiness. Either way, I think that's a relatively fair conclusion. But I'd love to hear your thought. And I think we can argue about like 2,800, 2,500. Yeah, whatever. We all get it, right? But do you agree with what I'm saying? I think it makes sense. So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on basically everything I had here, because I'm looking at the numbers right now. And even if we have a repeat, regardless of who the heroes are, if we have another 20% hero next season, who's going to go? And it doesn't mean somebody has to go, but at some point you got to anyway, you let me know what you think. I'd love to hear. So anyway, I've given you the numbers. I've given you the spiel. I've been here far too long at this point, but I do appreciate you all hanging out. And again, please, I know that this is a week some removed. We got Pro Tour 3 days away. The focus is not on Blitz right now. I totally get it. But it was important to me to do this, so that's why I did it. But for those of you it's important to, let me know. Reward me with a like. I appreciate you all. If nothing else, my friends, go Blitz and go Commando.